Hello, everybody, and welcome to this, our fifth and last in this series, anyway, of live streams with the airlines. We're delighted tonight to have the team from TUI joining us, and I'll introduce them in just a moment. Just a little bit of who I am, first off, so that you know who's talking to you now. My name's Katherine Bath, and I work for the Pilot Careers Live team, and I help organise the airline seminars and other seminars at the various different Pilot Careers Live events around the UK and Europe. Back in July, we held a Pilot Careers Live in the north, in Manchester, and TUI, as well as other airlines, were there with us. And we had so many questions, we decided to create this series of live streams to answer some of the outstanding questions that we weren't able to answer on site that day, but also to answer questions that you might want to post in the comments here tonight live. So you'll see that we have a comments opportunity and you can join the chat. So any questions that you have for Katherine and Stuart, who are here with us tonight from TUI, please do type them into the chat, and we will use a combination of the questions that come through tonight, as well as the questions that we have from Manchester throughout the course of this chat, which will run for about an hour. What I will say is you have an opportunity here now to pick the brains of people with a lot of experience in the industry, and obviously specifically TUI experience and the MPL programme with TUI. So please try to ask questions that you perhaps could only get the answers from Stuart and Katherine, rather than a question that you might be able to get from a quick Google search. So if I skip your question, it's probably because we think it's one that you could ask on Google very quickly, and we inevitably we'll have lots of other questions, and I'd rather try and get more complex questions and creative questions answered tonight whilst we have Stuart and Katherine to hand. So that's the plan. This is going on YouTube, so you can watch it back on YouTube, and if you miss any of the content or miss any of the answers, you'll be able to watch it back to get those answers. So again, if I skip something, it's probably because we've already answered it. So that's me. I'm going to hand over now to Katherine and Stuart so that they can introduce themselves to you and you know who you've got from TUI, and then we'll kick off. Great, we've got some questions coming in already. We've got lots to cover then. Over to you, Katherine and Stuart.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Karen, firstly, thank you so much for giving Stuart and I the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight and to meet all these fantastic people who are sending in all these questions already. So we're very much looking forward to the evening. So thank you for giving us both the opportunity. So I'm Katherine Cleaver. I'm one of the pilot management team at TUI. I've been here since about 2006. And I'm delighted to say that I've been a part of the recruitment team and leading the recruitment team since 2012. And then since we opened up the MPL scheme about 2 years ago now, I've been working with Stuart and some of the rest of the team on bringing in and giving the opportunity for the MPL, which is super exciting. As well as that, I also manage the pilots at Manchester, and I also do quite a lot of union work and support the head of pilots, Mark Howarth. Just very briefly, Karen, prior to being at TUI, I was general manager of Aldergrove in Northern Ireland. So that was an amazing job. I pretty much ran the airport, everything from the customer journey, from car parking through to takeoff. And prior to that, I was in Sainsbury's. I was a store manager for Sainsbury's and started with them as a management trainee at the age of 17. So quite amazing how you can start at 17 in a supermarket and now end up doing something like this on a Wednesday evening. So thank you very much. And I'm seeing these questions all rushing in here, Karen. I'm getting a bit, oh, goodness me. So I'm going to hand over to Stuart.
Thank you, Katherine. Great. Hi, Stuart.
Hi, Karen. Thanks, Katherine. Hello, everyone. My name's Stu Bars. I'm the flight crew training manager at TUI Airways. I'm a new boy in the team. I've only been here 19 years, all of that on the 737. And because I'm in the training team, I'm an examiner on the 737 as well. Before that, I started flying 30 years ago, so I had 10 years at another company, and that's where I joined a sponsored a cadet scheme. So I know exactly where you are looking at the future and what minefield it is to find all the different pathways into aviation. So hopefully we're going to be able to help you out tonight and answer all those difficult questions.
Brilliant. Well, I'm sure you will. That's great. As you say, lots of questions coming in, but I'm going to kick off with a couple of the most popular questions that we didn't get fully answered in Manchester. And the first one actually links really nicely. There you go. You planned this, Stuart. The first one is what you just said. What's the difference between an MPL, ATPL and a CPL? So all those complex routes that you. I think that's one for you, Stuart.
Yeah, the full answer is quite long. So if you split it into two parts, MPL sort of sits on its own, and sort of CPL and ATPL sort of sit on the other side of the fence. So MPL is designed as a completely ab initio course, taking people from nothing, and hopefully throughout these questions you'll hear more about what entry requirements they are and how to get onto our course. But they're all the same, as in they are ab initio courses, training up from nothing to flying a line. What's different though, what makes it stand out, is throughout the course you're trained in the company you're going to operate. You're trained with their procedures, their aircraft. So for our people, they'll learn TUI procedures from day one. They'll be in when they do their like instrument flying part, which is the advanced flying part. It's done on a 737, so that's going to be their, machine of choice for the foreseeable future. So there's no stepping stone to an aircraft that you're not going to fly. It's all specific. So that's the MPL. That sort of stands alone, and it's really so linked to the company that if you were to move on after it, in the immediate phase after it, it would be very difficult. You wouldn't be able to swap onto an Airbus easily. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. Okay, so let's take the CPL and ATPL. They can be added on to, if you had a PPL and a couple of hundred hours, they can be added on to that. So it's not a pure ab initio course. They can take people from nothing, but it doesn't have to be for CPL and ATPL. And really, the only difference is if you wanted to join a company like us, you would go for the ATPL, because it's only a different, it's a difference in the tech subjects and the ground subjects that you learn to pass your ground test. So if you did a CPL, you could end up flying in the right-hand seat of a 737 for us, but you would have to do the ATPL again to fly in the left-hand seat. So to join a commercial company, you would only do the ATPLs, and it's just it's a higher degree of learning on each of the multiple subjects, the 14 subjects that you would do. So they're very similar. So CPL and ATPL are sort of linked in that way, but ATPL is the one to do if you want to fly commercially.
As an airline pilot, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. As you say, you could spend hours explaining the differences because there's quite a few complexities. I think that's a really succinct summary. Thanks.
I think the big caveat to that, Karen, is I've missed out some little bits in that, but that's hopefully to try and keep it simple. So MPL sits on one side, CPL and ATPL on the other side.
Yeah,
ATPL if you want multi-pilot.
Yeah, and the MPL is always connected to an airline and an aircraft type.
Yes.
So that they're the sort of restricted programs, because you go through a selection process with the airline to go onto that particular type with that airline. Whereas the ATPL you can do and then apply to the airline at the end of the training and potentially go on to either type at that particular point, whatever that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And CPL doesn't necessarily give you the airline pilot route. You have to finish that off with the ATPL, basically. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for that. I can see we've got a lot of questions coming in here. So one more question from Manchester and then we'll go to these, I promise you. So the next most popular one from Manchester is going from the 737 to the 787 a big transition?
The quick answer, no. So that's the quick answer. So I'll give you why. No, it's not. The 737 entry level, sits at almost 80-ton aircraft as opposed to a 787 that's almost 200-ton max takeoff weight, I think. Don't quote me on it. I'm not rated on it. But they're very similar. They're Boeing, both Boeing jets. They've both got the same philosophy. And we run a very sort of strict set of normal procedures, our standard operating procedures. They're very similar, and they're written, but Boeing do it from scratch. They write it with a view that you can jump from aircraft to aircraft, and you only get the differences that you need. So they're very similar. I could jump in a 787 and try my best, and I wouldn't have been far away because there's so many things will be common to the both aircraft types. The other reason, the 737, it's very common. You see lots out there, but they can be a handful. They take a little bit of flying. They're running short haul sectors to difficult places. They're running to the extremes of what they were designed for long routes, difficult routes, short runways, it can be a challenge. And pilots will find that moving from the 737 to the 787, it's not that big a challenge.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now to the live stream questions, and the first one we've had in this evening is from Anu, this is, what are the future pilot projections? I presume that was going to say at TUI. So I don't know. I think, is that one for you, Katherine? Would you say?
Yeah, I'm assuming Anu means in terms of what's our recruitment looking like for the future. I'm assuming from that question. Anu, obviously we are very much focused on our MPL scheme at the moment, and so the MPL scheme will actually open in January. We can talk about more of that later on if there's any more questions around that. We're also going to be opening normal pilot recruitment for experienced pilots, probably also in January. I've got a feeling the two things are going to open on the same day. So that'll be the first full week of January. In terms of pilot numbers for next, we always work a summer in advance, Karen. So our summer 25 is almost completed. We're now looking towards summer 26. So that recruitment, as I say, will start in January. We don't have confirmed numbers yet. We have to wait to see what the commercial programme is, where customers want to go on holiday, where the aircraft are going to be based, and then we work our pilot numbers out on those figures. But there will be absolutely a good amount of pilot recruitment for TUI for the foreseeable future.
Brilliant, exciting. Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is from Chris. Hi, are there likely to be opportunities for low-hour modular pilots in the near future? So yeah, I presume Chris is asking for people who've just qualified but have gone the modular route as opposed to having done it through your MPL route, as opposed to an experienced pilot who's flown elsewhere who had a modular training experience. So who would like to answer that? Is that a Katherine or is that a Stu?
I think we can do it in two parts. Katherine, if you ask about the low hour route, and I'll pick up the difference between modular and integrated.
Yeah, okay. Yes, we will be looking for low hour pilots. Our recruitment that we're expecting to open, as I say, in January, we'll be looking for type-rated pilots for military people who come through a military route. We look at them slightly differently, and also pilots perhaps who haven't got very much experience, which is low-houred. Now, what we've done the last couple of years is that we have asked training schools to give us their recommendations of their graduates. We don't currently have the resource to open it up widely just to anybody who's gone through the modular route. So that's been our current stance. Having said that, we review our requirements every year, Karen. We try and sort of keep an eye on what's going on in the marketplace, obviously, and then we will continue to review what we're looking for. We haven't finalised what we're looking for yet in January. That'll happen in the coming weeks.
But those recommendations from the training providers would normally come from either the modular or the ATPL.
Correct.
Yeah. So that there are opportunities potentially.
Yeah.
There. Then brilliant. Okay, thank you. That's great. Stu, you wanted to add something to that as well?
Well, that parting comment that you made there, yeah, that's the fundamental difference. So I'm not sure if everyone knows what the difference is. So the integrated, you would go to a school, a single school, and you'd pay one lump sum, and you'd do everything from start to finish, i.e. the whole course is integrated. But you can piece together all the different elements of it, from the ground school, all the exams, the different flying phases from the general flying to the advanced instrument flying, and we don't differentiate. What we have done, as Katherine said, is linked to schools to get recommendations, but they can come from either route. It doesn't make a difference to us. And I say that because I know in the past some operators have said yes, they only want integrated, and that's not what we look at. We know that if you've got the right stuff, if you've got the desire, whether it's modular or integrated, you're still going to be a good bet.
Brilliant. And I should clarify my error. Sorry, I said ATPL or modular. I should have said integrated or modular. I'm sorry. That was my phraseology wrong at the beginning there. Brilliant. Thank you very much for clarifying that. The next question is from Foj, but I'm not sure I entirely understand it. So we might ask you to write that one again later, Foj.
I interpreted that as EASA licenses, and it
Yeah.
might be.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Okay, go. Yes, we'll work on that basis, shall we? So whoever would like to ask.
So no, we don't. We can't have yes because we are out since Brexit. The gift that keeps giving us in the planning of training that requires us to use UK licenses at present. Now, clearly, there is a pathway to convert, and I know flying schools just now will offer an additional package to go for EASA and UK licensing. That's probably a question. That's a deeper question in itself, whether you should do both. But for TUI Airways, so just the UK or the G-Reg aircraft, you will need a UK license.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Next up, Monty Pritchard. Do you get any choice over base or aircraft at TUI?
Okay, shall I take that one, Stuart?
That's yours.
Aircraft, no. We are recruiting for the Boeing for the 737 only. We've done that for a few years now, so there's no plans to change that. In terms of your base, if you were successful, you would be offered wherever our vacancies are at that moment in time. So if you are top of the list to be offered, then you might have 5 or 6 bases to choose from. As we go down the list, that choice might reduce. So the recommendation we'll have to give to anybody is if you do get offered a position with TUI would be to accept the base that you get offered, because once you've actually got your foot in the door, you are then able to bid at least once a year to go to where you want to go. Now, we never promise people they're going to get to where they want to go immediately, but generally speaking, first and second officers get to the base where they want to be, generally within 12 to 18 months. So yeah, that's what we would say. And we always offer our own pilots first. So Karen, before we do any job offers next year, we will make sure that anybody who's currently working for TUI is where they want to be based. We would never bring a new pilot into a base where one of our current pilots wants to be. And we work in a very transparent manner. That's all published. People can see exactly where they are and where they're likely to go.
That's important to note. That's lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so Peter Robbins, good evening all. What is it you look for at the assessment day role play, please?
Now, Peter, if you were stood in front of Stuart and I now at Pilot Careers Live on Saturday, we would say to you, what do you think we're looking for?
Yeah. Okay, so maybe opportunity to get a little interactive here. You can put some suggestions into the chat further on down, and we'll just see what comes up. And
I think, Karen, Peter, it is a good question. I think what we would say in TUI is we are a holiday airline. We have the most amazing job. Stuart has the most amazing job every day when he goes into his office to fly his 737, when he's not recruiting with me and doing other management stuff. He has the most amazing job of taking people on their holiday. We take people on their first holiday, sadly their last holiday. We take people to go and get married. We take families, all generations of families on holiday. We're in a very, very privileged position. And the pilots that we want to employ need to have that sense of holiday and spirit and excitement about what they're doing. We want our pilots, and I'm giving you lots of hints here, we want our pilots to smile at the children as they go through the terminal. They put their uniform on. Stuart hasn't got his hat on at the moment, which I'm quite disappointed with. But he would normally have his hat on walking through the terminal. And we expect our pilots to interact with our customers. We expect them to chat to them as they go through the airport, smile, just be friendly, get onto the aircraft, make some great announcements. If possible, bring the children onto the flight deck, particularly if there's a delay. And we absolutely encourage our pilots to be part of the holiday from day one. People's holidays don't start when they get that first, jump in the swimming pool. It starts when they get to the airport. And it's super important that all of our pilots understand that they are a key part of that holiday experience. And the boys and girls who are pilots can make such a difference to somebody's holiday. They're the first people they tend to see and the last people when they get off. So what we're looking for at our assessment, in fact, at every stage through our process, Karen, is people who are engaging, who are smiling, who have got confidence. We accept people maybe have to grow into confidence, but we need to see some potential for that. And we need to see somebody who is enthusiastic and passionate about what they want to do.
Yeah.
We understand that people, Peter, if you do come to one of our assessment centres, we probably understand that you may well have an application form in with another airline. We understand particularly if it's your first job, it's super keen to get yourself an airline job. But if you're going to come to a TUI assessment centre, you need to live that TUI spirit. That's what we're looking for. We're not taking people on a business meeting or just moving around the UK. They've saved a huge amount of money up. We're not the cheapest airline, Karen. We're our holidays are actually quite expensive, and therefore we need to make sure that our customers really want to enjoy it and want to keep coming back. And that's what we expect from our pilot community.
Yeah. The pilots are a brand ambassador for you, aren't they? Basically.
Yeah. The moment they put their uniform on, they leaving the house, they are representative of TUI, and we're very, very lucky over the years. We've employed some fantastic people who completely embody that, and they live and breathe it. Yeah. Stuart, anything I've missed, or is that?
No, that's well put. No, it's not about turning up at the aircraft, going up the steps, and turning left and locking that door. No, the whole aircraft's yours, your team for the day, and it's a huge privilege, as Katherine says. We're doing a fun job. It's not unpleasant, the job.
No, super envious of everybody who's at the start of this career, I have to say. I look back. Brilliant. And just one point you mentioned there, at every stage of the application journey you need to reflect that, and I think that's worth noting. So when people put in their CVs or their cover letters, I'm not quite sure what you particularly ask for, but you need to reflect it there as well, not just I'm a pilot with a license, because everyone's a pilot with a license. It's you've properly understood. And
another little free hint here: if you are filling an application form or you're sending in a cover letter, don't just copy and paste your previous one, because I hate reading something that says I'm applying to British Airways because of, and you're like, no, actually we're TUI. So just be super careful when you're filling anything in that it's relevant to the company that you are applying to.
Yeah, such a good point. Happens too often, sadly. Brilliant. Anu, I think your question has been duplicated, so we've answered that one already. If you missed it, you can watch YouTube and you can pick it up from there. So Anish, for the reasoning test, do you need to get above average for all 3 tests?
Is this you, Katherine?
Yeah, I can take this one. Yes, you do, Anish, you absolutely do. So the way that the scoring is, it's not an average over the 3. You have to get the required score on each of the 3 tests. And we will set that bar when we start looking at the type of scores that are coming in. This year for the MPL, as you probably are already aware, we had just over 13,000 applications, and we were able to set our bar very high. And so you absolutely need to get at least above average for each individual test.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant, thanks. So Nat, we've answered the question about modular, and 360 squared, we've also answered the question about the license type. Ridwan, so your question is, will the fully funded ATPL programme be taking applications in 2025? So I think we've kind of answered this, but it's that clarification about the ATPL MPL again. So MPL, you've said, is opening in 2025. That's the fully funded programme, isn't it?
Yep, our intention is to open it on, I think it's the 7th of January. It's the first full.
Can we just make sure that that's fully funded MPL. It's not going to be ATPL.
Yeah.
So when I talked about integrated ATPLs and being a full course, that's what a flying school will provide. It's not what we provide. Yeah.
So Ridwan, it's a fully funded MPL program.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks. So Samuel, again, you've certainly been talking about this, but I think Samuel's been a bit more specific in his question here. How would you summarise TUI's value? So you've talked about the holiday and the fact that the pilots need to embrace that. Do you have specific values, I guess, that is what Samuel's asking?
We do, which are, Samuel, they're all on our website. So I think, you'll probably have a good look at those on the TUI website. And you know what? I'd like to think that by the end of this session, you'll understand much more about our values, because I'm hoping that Stuart and I will be living examples of the TUI values on this call. So probably better off having a good look on our website for that one. And I hope to see you, Samuel, when you're doing your interview in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, there we go. So Foj, we answered that one. Nathan, are there significant delays of aircraft deliveries from Boeing? And if so, how are you approaching this, and how does your recruitment forecast reflect this?
Well, yes, there are delays. I'm not sure if they're significant. They're managed at a much higher pay scale than ours, and we get the result of what is being decided by Boeing and in our senior management, and that's what dictates our recruitment. So the fact that we are recruiting and announcing the recruitment for the future means these deliveries are on the plan, they're on schedule. So any headaches for any delays are beyond our level. We probably don't see exactly what's going on, so we just deal with what's coming, what's going to be delivered for the summer season, because the start of the summer season is the sort of marking point, the bench point for us, and Katherine will then be tasked with getting the right numbers in for that period of time, and then it turns to me to get them trained in time.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah. I think I alluded to that earlier, Nathan, in that we can't actually confirm our pilot recruitment numbers for next year yet. We always know we're going to have a certain number because obviously TUI is quite a career airline. So we have a number of pilots every year who hit 65 and therefore retire. So we always know that we've got a certain number of vacancies each year. So that's pretty much where we're sat at the moment, and then we're just waiting, as Stuart's just said, until we get all the final details, and then we'll know what we're doing for next year.
Lovely, thank you. Jean-Marie said, "Evening, Katherine."
Hello, how are you? It's nice to hear from you again.
So Ian Zott, as per TUI's MPL programme, how much would it roughly cost for personal expenses during my training if I were to be accepted next year?
That's really hard, isn't it? Because it depends what sort of lifestyle that you lead. Probably if I just sort of give a bit of an overview, maybe, Karen, as to what it looks like. I know there is quite a lot of stuff on our website. And then obviously Stuart chip in. For your first 6 months, you're going to be at home or wherever you are to do your ATPL exams. So most people are at home. So there's probably no huge additional cost there. Obviously, you've got to look after your own food and everything. And a lot of the current MPL cadets have been lucky enough to be able to move back home or to move in with friends and family. For those 6 months, if we need you to come down to the training centre, which we will do at East Midlands for ground school, then you're able to claim petrol, and we would put you up in hotels for those 6 months. But in terms of your lunches, your food when you're in the hotel, that's down to you as well. Your next chunk of time will probably be roughly 4 months, which at the moment will be in Oxford. And we have a training centre there now. We will put you into accommodation for those 4 months as well. The beautiful accommodation serviced houses there at the moment, they're all in groups of 3, 4, 5 in some beautiful cottages and houses in the Oxfordshire countryside, which is very nice. Again, personal expenses, if you've got a car, if you've got whatever you do, you need to pick all that up yourself. And then the final stage is a simulator. And again, we put you into accommodation for that. Again, at the moment, they're in apartments in Crawley and in East Grinstead, individual apartments on their own. We have this year, based on feedback from the previous year, given the cadets the opportunity to have a £10,000 living aid payment, which is paid in 3 chunks. So the first 3,000 ATPL stage, then 3,000 at VFR stage, and then the remainder at the sim stage. And the idea of that is to try and give people a little bit of money just to, I don't know if the washing machine breaks down or the car breaks down, that they've got access to some money. So I guess the summary is, if we need you to be somewhere, we'll put you into accommodation or into a hotel. We'll give you some fuel allowance to get yourself to and from training centres and to and from Gatwick. When it's a CA exams, we pay for those, and we'll move you around where we need you to be. So hopefully that has answered that question. In terms of how much, it's entirely up to you. I don't know, Stu, what do you think?
Well, I'm getting flashbacks to when I did my course, and I didn't have much money at the time, and I lived on cups of tea and custard creams. It's amazing how long you can last.
Yeah,
it's a difficult one to answer. I think you just have to get a pen and paper out and just work out, what you think you can live on. But as Katherine, as you say, you've got if you've got a base that you can do your distance learning from, friends or family with a roof over your head, that takes a large chunk of your expenses out straight away, and everything else that we need you to be somewhere, it's all supported. So you don't have many outgoings.
and then it's just your food and social, basically.
The current group seem to be doing a lot of socialising. There's a lot of meals being cooked at in Oxford, and plenty of nights out, and people going to the gym and playing tennis and stuff. So they seem to be doing okay.
Good. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Hopefully that answers your question, Ian. Maybe an idea is if you can come to something like Pilot Careers Live and chat to some of the students there about their own personal costs, because they'll be able to talk to you about what it's costing them as individuals. Julia, so okay, we haven't probably directly answered this question, so I will put it forward. So Julia, with your free cadet course, why is it the multi-crew pilot license you've chosen as opposed to the ATPL? So why did you go down the MPL route instead of the ATPL route, I guess?
Can I take that one, Katherine?
Yeah.
So that you could come out of the ATPL and just go and join, another airline or a different aircraft type, but you would still be learning the TUI stuff on day one when you actually joined the company. The beauty of the MPL is we can control the quality of your training from day one. We from day one, you jump on jump seats with us, so you come flying with us and see what we do. When you're doing your ground training, learning your exams, you're learning TUI culture, TUI values all the way through. When you do the light aircraft flying, it's done. The checklist looks like a TUI 737 checklist. Okay, it might have different words on it because it's on a DA40. And when you get into the simulator, you'll be flying the aircraft that you're going to fly for TUI. So you get so much value added from being MPL all the way through. That's why we choose MPL, not ATPL.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Arion, hope I've said your name correctly there. What are the subjects for the aptitude tests in the MPL programme?
Katherine, or
very, very quick one: numerical, logical, and verbal reasoning. The details are all on our website.
Brilliant, thank you. So Belle, I think we've probably answered much of your question there. Can you please tell me about your fully funded scheme? What flight school students are sent to? We haven't covered that. So yeah, Belle's question there. What flight school students are sent to?
It's actually our own group. And that sort of links into what Stuart was just saying before about the fact that you're learning from TUI from day one. It's called TUI Airline Training, commonly known as TAT, or affectionately known as TAT. So on day one, the cadets will come to an induction with TUI Airways. So myself, Stuart, and some of our team will be there. And then we hand you over to the training provider, which is TUI Airline Training, of which some of the guys also wear a TUI Airways uniform. And then it all stays within house. That's the current plan. So you don't go off to any of the other schools such as Skyborne or places like that. You stay with us.
Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. Isaline, hi there. Can I take part in the cadet programme even if I'm Belgian?
You can if you have the right to live and work in the UK.
Yeah. So you just need to make sure that's the case. And that's our governmental law, isn't it? So it's something we can get around, unfortunately. Again, a Brexit thing. I'm not sure whether you can answer this one, but there we go. I'll put it up there and see how you want to respond. So Samuel, also, what type of aircraft knowledge do you expect to know for the interview? They're not going to give you the questions, are they, Samuel?
How many rivets are on the right wing? No, I know. So there's two parts to the recruitment here. You got your MPL. So the idea is you can join the MPL having never flown before. And what we do for that is we actually send out some information that's pertinent to your life as a pilot. So it gives you a chance to get a little flavour for the sort of subjects that we're looking at and the technical detail. And it's about how you read, absorb, interpret, and then can recall that under a bit of pressure when you're with us on the day. So it's not onerous, but it's just a taster to what you would learn, and that's for the MPL, because we assume no knowledge. Okay, some people do come with a little bit of knowledge, whether it be gliding or PPL. When you come for the other recruitment, for the low hours, there's sort of normal ATPL questions. So all the questions that you would have answered about, flight dynamics or mass and balance, you might get asked little questions about that. But we wouldn't expect you to know all about a 737 for your assessment on an MPL day.
No. Cool. Thank you. Brandon, when you initially submit your application, do you just submit your CV, or do you have to fill in a form or something else as well?
I'll take that one then, Stuart.
Okay.
So for both MPL and for normal recruitment, I say normal, that's awful, isn't it? For MPL and pilots, if we've got their licenses, it is an application form and your CV. So that's it. So it's both. But everything is online, so please don't send anything in. A lot of people these days still send in CVs and letters. We don't have the facility to keep them, Karen, because our whole process is done online, right the way through to getting a contract offered out online. So in order to apply, you have to have completed the application form online and attached your CV to that application process. Yeah,
I totally understand that. It's the only way you can manage it, especially with the numbers of applications that you receive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think, Daniel, we've answered your question, which is you've got a TUI assessment coming up, so good luck with that as a low-hour modular pilot. Any advice you can offer to help him get
Just
the
be yourself, Daniel.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Bring yourself to the day. We want to know who Daniel is.
I think so Peter's trying again. So Peter's saying again, so what do you see in an interview or group assessment that makes you confident someone has a TUI spirit smile?
Great question.
Yeah, isn't it? What do we see in an interview that makes you confident?
Examples.
Well, we're quite well known for making people relaxed. We did get some feedback we make people too relaxed and they forgot they were in an interview. But what we're looking for is that people who are being themselves can turn up and be the natural version of themselves and be open and honest. But we don't want to see the fake them that they're having to work hard at being, because that doesn't work at 3 o'clock in the morning or at 2 o'clock in the morning if you're ready to land. We just need them to be themselves, and it's obvious they must know what it's like when they're in a social setting and they meet some friends, and they understand that some people may appear more confident in subjects or in social environments, and that's what we see. We see the natural person. We're not expecting people to know everything. If someone doesn't know something, it's very important in our world as pilots to admit if you don't know something. So that's, as long as they're coming across as natural, that'll probably come across as confident.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Right, we answered that, Pete, sorry. Anu, hi Stuart, is there a second officer pathways available for cadets during their training? Oh, so a tagging program. So you do have a tagging program anywhere where you tag someone as they're going through training, apart obviously from your MPL?
Not through their training. So during their initial, so if their initial training with other people, with let's say a flight school or another organisation, not yet. So Katherine goes out to schools and asks for recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
That's more at the end, but not yet. So that has been done in the past, and it's something that we have talked about fairly recently, but it's not something we're planning just yet. Happy with that answer, Katherine?
Yeah, I think so. I think we also, when we've talked about it, I think all of the people change during their training process. And, for us, we'd like to almost see the finished article, because then you've got your license, you're pretty much ready to go. And I think we'd also like everyone to go through our recruitment process. We want to be consistent so that everybody since 2012 who's joined TUI has come through exactly the same process. We might tweak it as we're going through. And we continue to try to make sure that we're relevant to the business, but we'd like everyone to do that. So no, we're not considering tagging for those reasons, really. And we do genuinely believe that throughout a training program, we're seeing it already with the MPL, people just completely change as they're going through that process. So we'd rather you guys did your training school and then apply and then come to an assessment centre and then let's have a look, see how you get on.
Brilliant.
Hopefully that helps, that one. I know.
I think we've answered Camelia's question. It's about the 737 to 787. Andy, you might have answered this already. Could you please share some advice on what you're looking for at the digital interview stage? Have we covered that bit already? Is it all the same, would you say?
Well, Katherine mentioned the online sort of tests element. What there is there's online interviews. So what we'll ask is a few sort of simple questions that will be relevant to joining either TUI or the role as a pilot, and we put it up on the screen. Give them, I think it's 3 minutes to review it and 2 minutes to record an answer. And again, it is be yourself. It's come across natural. But what will look good there is if you've given, either the competency of what we're looking for or your knowledge about the company and what we do. If you've given it some thought beforehand, you're probably going to be better placed to give a structured answer.
Great, thank you.
Karen, can I just maybe add into that, Stuart, if that's okay? One of the things that we would always say, sorry, who answered that question? Andy. What we would say, if you were standing in front of us at Pilot Careers Live on Saturdays, we would say there's a few key things, a few hints and tips here for a digital interview for any job, not just for us. A lot of people do them from their bedrooms, which is absolutely fine. If you're going to do that, make sure you've made your bed, make sure it all looks neat and tidy. The amount of people that we do an interview with, and you can just, the place looks in complete disarray in the background, and that's not a great start to an interview. Make sure that you look the part. You might have your joggers on the bottom and what have you, but make sure you look the part on top. You're applying to be a professional airline pilot, and it's super important to us that our pilots look the part, as Stuart is tonight. So we wouldn't necessarily expect you to have a jacket on, but certainly if you're going to apply to be a professional pilot, make sure you've got a collar and tie on. Make sure that you've practiced, as Stuart's just said, but make sure you practice looking at the screen. Make sure that you're not looking up or you're looking down or you're looking sideways. Make sure that we can see you, because eye contact is super important. And again, we want our pilots to be doing that with our customers. So that's what we're looking for an interview. We're a holiday airline. So we're going to ask you questions about the customer. We're going to ask you questions about holidays and about how you can make it special. We're going to ask you what you can bring to our airline and to our business. So they're really obvious questions that you're probably going to get asked at some point during the process. So start to think about those sorts of things now. What makes you special? What's going to sell you to TUI? So start thinking of those things. And then, as Stuart says, when you get your couple of minutes to answer your question, hopefully you've had some thoughts. And the final thing that I would say, Karen, is if we ask you for 2 minutes, you have a 2-minute timer for your question. If you've only spoken for 20 seconds, you haven't given us what we want. If you're still talking at 2 minutes, then you haven't structured your answer properly. So a good candidate looks the part, smiles at the camera, tries to bring some humour in. I know that's really strange because you're just talking to a camera, it's a bit random, but practice it and make sure that you've got your timer there. And about a minute and a half, well, more than a minute and a half, minute and 50 seconds is sort of what we're looking for. Yeah, that's one of my few hints and tips.
There'll be a timer on the screen, and the practice one shows you the time tailing away, so it gives you a chance to.
But we have people say to us, "Why didn't I get through?" Well, you only spoke for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We say 2 minutes for a reason.
And it's important to say that can generate lots of hours of video that pilots will review. So they're always reviewed by a pilot, and they're always graded. We standardise all the pilots, so we're all looking for the same things.
Yeah. And you said you practice it, and also start thinking of examples. And my suggestion would be have a load of post-it notes and write those examples down on post-it notes and stick somewhere so that you don't forget them, don't lose them, and you can start building on them in your own time as well, so that you're ready for it when that time comes. Okay, next one is from Alex. Says thank you, Alex. Do you have any plans to visit flight schools, e.g. Skyborne, in the near future? Other flight schools are available in the near future.
I think we're going to come down, and on Saturday at Pilot Careers Live, we're going to come down and chat to each of the training schools and see what connections we can make. We already do have connections with them all, but I think my boss is very keen that I get out and about, and I come out to some schools, and we'll be dragging Stuart with me.
There we go. So watch this space, Alex, on that one. I think we've answered this, Anish, on the CV. Next one, AL. Good evening, AL. I've flown 2,000 hours in the RAF with 1,850. God, I couldn't work that number out. On 4-engine Boeing jets. Is the path in with TUI via the 737 only? We have answered that, or is there scope for moving on to the 787 with my experience?
So right now, the answer is it's only 737. That sounds like a great experience. So that's exactly the path we would normally have. And as Katherine says, once you're in the company, and when we train you up, obviously there's a big cost to the type rating for a 737. And once you've done the type freeze for that, which is it still 3 years, Katherine? Yeah. And then after that, you have the option to fly the 78, and then you would find the conversion straightforward. So in the past, we had put people straight on the 78, and we looked at their previous experience and chose people with either Boeing time or large aircraft time. But that's not what's happening just now.
Jack, what are some of the things that make TUI stand out to you compared to other airlines you may have worked with? That's a nice one.
Well, I think, Katherine, I guess you've answered some of that with what we do. What makes it stand out to us is, for me, the customer is at the heart of everything we do. I know other companies will want that as a strap line, but we live and breathe it. As pilots, we work by those work by that mandate constantly. Every decision we make when we're out on the line is all to do with the customer. I think what makes it very special is we've got amazing people in the company. Everyone that has a TUI yellow or high-vis jacket on, or is on our aircraft, they're all fantastic people, and it's a great place to work. We're well looked after, and you do feel part of something bigger. I got a chance to do a Santa flight a couple of years ago, and met the boss of TUI, so he knows my name, and that's pretty unique to be treated as an individual. I think that's my personal view, and I hope that all the new entrants would echo that, because we do get feedback that it's a great place to work in itself, and we do a fantastic job. We work with great bits of kit. 737 and 78 are awesome aircraft.
And I think Stuart's just mentioned the Santa flights. I mean, some of our flying is really, really exciting. I mean, taking 180 kids on to go and see Santa in December is just incredible. All the cabin crew get dressed up as elves and what have you. We actually allow our pilots to put a Christmas jumper on and a hat on, just as a one-off. They're allowed to wear a Santa hat. They do things with the aircraft. They sort of, wiggle. There's probably a technical word, as a Stuart. They wiggle the wings.
That's Santa landing his sleigh on top of the aircraft.
Yes, Santa's there, and then they put the bells on. The reindeers are outside. They get the kids all singing. They do competitions. I mean, and they call it work.
Yeah, I've done those flights in my past, and they are so lovely to do.
Yeah.
So.
It's probably the hardest part of the job. We do colouring competitions for the kids, and we normally get sent to the captain to judge it. Now, it's a minefield, that one. Everyone's a winner.
Okay, hope that answers your question, Jack. Johnny, we've answered your question, so I will just say there's a few questions coming through now that are duplicates, albeit not exactly the same wording, for something that we've covered previously. So if I skip it, it's because I'm suggesting that we've already answered it, so please just watch it back on YouTube. So Anish, this is a slightly different one. For the MPL, prioritise state schools.
hi Anish, no, we prioritise the best person for the position. We don't care where you've come from, what your background is, what your school is. If you get the scores in those online tests and you perform at the digital interview, you get to assessment centre, you do your simulators, you're on the scheme. So no, best person for the job.
And I think, Katherine, it's quite important to say, when we first dreamt this scheme up, it was all about diversity and inclusion. That was the driver behind this. That's our rationale by opening it.
Yeah, our aim is to try and just give this opportunity to people perhaps who would never have had the opportunity to do this previously. So we spend quite a lot of time actually, Anish, going out to state schools. We have a group of a lot of pilots actually who work with us on a project called Inspiring the Next Generation. We go out into schools and inner city schools, deprived schools, as well as other schools, but generally speaking, we do try and get out into the communities to talk to the kids about different routes to be pilots and cabin crew. So that's one of our projects that we do.
Yeah, good. Aitan, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, but we have answered that one. So, Jack, slightly different angle from Jack here, but it's about what sort of activities or responsibilities would be useful for individuals without lots of work experience.
Anything. I would say absolutely anything. Now, the role of a pilot working remotely and part of a team, using your own initiative, then things like your Duke of Edinburgh's are really good. Any extracurricular work, whether it be through school or scouts, guides, anything that does a bit different. University air squadrons are great, but anything where someone has worked towards a goal and shown key qualities like resilience and graft, then that's going to make them stand out.
And some of your university projects that you've done, where you've worked in a team on a university project, for example, that's also going to be able to demonstrate some of the competencies. So check out what competencies are. And I've said this before on these live streams. Depending on which airline, but there are roughly 9 competencies, some say 10, but find out what the competencies are and create a matrix and put examples into it of things that you've done, and just chat to somebody else so they interview you, and that might pull out examples of stuff that you find you've already done that you can link back to each of the competencies.
It could even just be, part of the school, I know the tennis club or the netball team or the hockey team. It's being involved, it's being a part of something, and it's having something to talk about. In fact, one of our cadets who started in September is 18. Literally, they were doing their A-levels during the assessment centre process. So he didn't have lots of working examples because he didn't have a job. He was just purely out of school. And yet he still managed to shine amongst the 13,000 people with just what he was able to talk to us about. So don't worry, Jack, if you haven't got lots and lots of work experience. Just sit down and think about, what do you do? What do you do at school? What do you do in university? How do you interact with people? And you can create some really good examples, as Karen says, looking at our competencies.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Matty and Mubasha, we have answered your questions there. LB, I don't know whether you can answer this one actually. How many more years is the cadet programme going to be running for?
Until someone tells me to stop.
There we go.
I don't know. We're a big business. I don't know. Stuart and I love this. We put our heart and souls into it, as do everybody on the recruitment team. We definitely know we're going ahead in January. We've got the date for that. So beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Pilot 24. Can you apply for TUI MPL if you've done your ATPLs but have not started the flying yet, the CPLII yet?
No, this is a very important takeaway from date, and this is obviously just specifically for the MPL entry requirements. So if you've done any of the ATPL ground schools exams, you cannot start. As we mentioned earlier on, it's a complete ab initio. So it's a CA requirement that if you've got a PPL and you can have passed the PPL, but you mustn't have more than 100 hours to join our scheme. So that's a big takeaway. So some people have got just over the 100, and unfortunately they're not eligible. We could debate the rights and wrongs of that, but that's the facts and that's the requirements that we're given to deal with just now, and that's all we can go with.
You can't have any additional night ratings either, can you, Stuart?
So no additional ratings to the PPL, whether it be night, IMC, or single pilot IR, which would be fairly rare. But so it has to be just PPL and less than 100 hours with no additional ratings, and no not embarked on an ATPL course.
Thank you. So I'm conscious we've got about six minutes left and quite a lot of questions left. So I've just done a scan. I do think we've answered a lot of them. So Tom, I think we've answered yours earlier. Anu, that's a new one. Is the type rating bonded for second officers to reduce salary?
Well, it's not a reduced salary. The salary takes into account the fact that there's a payback time, but that's also the type freed, isn't it, Katherine? That will pay some of that back. Yeah. So the second officer salary is the salary.
See beyond that for 3 years while you're paying back the bond.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was scanning down then to see whether we had any other questions that I could ask. So JJ, how intense would you say the MPL course is? For the course?
I would say strap in and enjoy the journey. It's very intense. 6 months of ground school, going through tech subjects and doing fairly tough exams. That takes a bit of effort. It takes a lot of graft, a lot of solo hours studying. You get a lot of help as well in that, but that's quite tough. That's from my personal experience of doing the initial ATPLs. That was the hardest part. And the light aircraft flying phase, I think, is fun because they get to see the aircraft, they get to see what we do, but there's still challenges there. And then when it gets into the sim, the intensity and the demand for what you've got to perform, it increases quite markedly, and that's when it gets very real. It can get quite intense.
Yeah,
but
and
very enjoyable.
Doesn't it as well? But you're selecting them to be able to cope with it. You can identify as part of the selection process. So, sorry, I'm not quite sure what name to refer. RCSC. In what MPL year program would someone at the age of 16 to be 17 by the end of this year be able to? So could they apply next year, or do they need to wait another year? If they're 16 at the moment, would be 17 by the end of this year.
I'll make that an easy one. You have to be 18 to start. So work out when your birthday is, but yeah, I think we say 18 on the 1st of September. That's what we say.
So if he's 17 by the end of this year, should be eligible for a November course next year, or as long as his birthday isn't after November. Yeah.
Okay, Amma. So you're going to want to stay with TUI forever, but Amma, fair question. If you stay with TUI for a number of years and eventually want to apply to a different airline, is that hard with an MPL license?
If it's for a number of years, it's not hard, because what happens with an MPL only stays really as an MPL with its limitations until they've got their ATPL, and this is where it gets complicated. So those two streams that we started off this hour with, talking about MPL on one side and CPL and ATPL on the other, they meet when you get to the magic 1500 hours. So when an MPL comes out, obviously they've got virtually no hours on the aircraft, and they build up. They need to get 1500 hours, and then they do what's known as an ATPL skills test. So we're doing tests every year. It's virtually the same test. There's just one small thing added to it, and then you apply to the CA to get your ATPL license, and then that's your ATPL license, just exactly the same as my ATPL license, and I didn't do the MPL. So you're back to the normal route for a pilot. And once you've got that ATPL at the 1500 hours, rough rule of thumb, maybe 500-600 hours a year. So you're talking about 3 years. That's the bond period. So by the time the bond period's up, you should have your ATPL, and you could technically go to any company and any type after that. So that MPL restriction only lasts during the training and up to the point where you get your ATPL skills test completed.
Thank you. So I literally have not been listening to you there properly, Stuart, at all. So I hope repeating something, but I got the general gist. I've just scanned down because I'm really conscious we're pretty much out of time. And the only question I can see that's completely not been answered so far is how many times you can apply to the programme. I've lost it now, so sorry, I can't find the name of the person.
As many as you like. It's fantastic, Karen. We've had some people who've started this year who applied in year 1 and didn't get through. They got some feedback and they've come back again. So keep on applying.
That was Sven, thank you, I found it now. So that's brilliant, thank you. How long is this, so this is Mark, how long is the selection process?
Yeah, so
the 5 intake, when's the start date?
Yeah, so we'll start it the first week of January, I think it's the 7th, whatever the Monday is. We'll close it at the end of January. You'll then have you get so many days to complete each section, but you'll get told that as you finish one section, get told how long you've got for the next. So basically, January the 7th, applications close on the 31st. The assessment centre is in April. These dates are all on our website. The simulator is in May. Start dates are September, October and November 2025. We're planning on 30 again, so 10 on each start date.
Brilliant.
But can I just say one last thing? Sorry, Karen. Take your time. If you are applying and you're thinking that we have people this year who the day it opens, they just all go hell for leather and they make mistakes on their application form. Don't do that. You've got until the 31st of January. I wouldn't suggest you leave it till the 31st, but you've got time. Sit down, think about it properly, fill it in carefully. Pilots have got to be precise. We're not looking for somebody who can just rush it through quickly. You need to, no spelling mistakes, answer the questions properly. If it's a no, make sure you put no and not a yes. Think it through. Pilots need attention to detail, and that's what we're looking for from the very start of our process. So take your time, get your homework out the way, whatever, sit yourself down properly, don't do it in front of the telly, think it through. And if you complete each stage seriously, then you'll have a great chance of getting through the process.
Brilliant. Well, that's a really nice way to end it. We are out of time. We do have a lot of remaining questions, but I have done a scan through and I'm fairly confident, everybody, that we have answered your question, all the questions in one way or another throughout the course of this evening. So please do watch the whole stream back on YouTube and you should find the answer to your question in this live stream somewhere. So sorry if I haven't pulled your name out specifically to say, but thank you for all your questions that have come through tonight, and a big thank you to Katherine and Stuart for giving up your Wednesday evening for us and answering the questions so openly and honestly as well. There's been a lot of detail in your answers, and I'm sure that's been very much appreciated by our audience. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you guys, TUI, and hopefully as many people as possible who are on the live stream tonight at Pilot Careers Live in London at Heathrow on Saturday.
We'll be there,
everybody, and see you Saturday if you can possibly be there.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Good luck.
Night.